Welcome to this video where we will discuss different types of definitions in academic writing. First, we want to start with some really basic definitions that use verb phrases. So let's look at some examples. Generally, we're going to see the new term, some kind of basic verb phrase, and then an explanation of that term. So X is Y, or X means Y, or X is defined as Y. So here's an example. Farming is the action of growing food. Digestion refers to the process of converting food into energy that the body can use. Or we might get the definition first and then the specialized keyword or vocabulary word. The tube connecting the mouth to the stomach is known as the esophagus. So in each of these, we see an example where there is a new word that's maybe specialized and that the readers or listeners may not understand. And then we have some words that explain it. Those words could just be one word, could be a synonym, a simple word that has a similar meaning, or it could be a longer explanation. And that's where we get to something called class definitions. Class definitions are a type of definition where we refer the new word to a basic word that the reader or listener is likely to already know, but then we give some kind of explanation of how the specialized word is different from the word that the listener or reader already knows, the more general word. So they would take a form like this. X is a form of Y that is, and then some kind of characteristic or description. So X is the new word. Y is a word that the reader or listener already knows, some kind of more general common term. And we connect their understanding of the general common word to the new word with this explanation of how it's different. Another way to do that is X are Y that have something special about them. Or X is a Y that, again, is special or has special or does something special. Here's some examples. A mural, this is a new word, is a form of art. Now we think that our readers or listeners already know the words form and art. So we could say a mural is a form of art. So now they already know it's something related to art, but we're going to tell them how it's different from art in general. It's a form of art that is created on the wall. And so that makes it different. Now we can understand that a mural is a type of art, but it's art that takes place on a wall. So this is our class definition. We're dealing with a class that someone already understands, art, but we're saying how it's different from general art. Let's look at our next example, junipers. This is probably a new word for you. Junipers are carnivorous or evergreen plants. Plants is a word we probably already know, but junipers might be new. So junipers are a kind of plant that has needle or scale-like leaves. So it's telling us that the special kind of plant. A badge, this might be a new word, is a physical or digital token. A token is a general word that means some kind of representation that symbolizes an achievement. So a badge is a picture or an object that means we did something, we completed something. So we can see in each of these examples, we're connecting the new word with a word we already know, hopefully, and then explaining how the new word is different from the general class word. Now, related to this is a really short type of definition, a brief definition. Sometimes they're called appositives, where we say the new word, and then we say a synonym after that word that has a similar meaning. So a new word, but hopefully a word that we already understand, or a short phrase that we already understand. And that explains to us the new word. And we can separate that from the new word with commas, with the short definition, or with commas and the word or before it, or we might even just separate it from the main sentence with parentheses. The advantage of brief or positive definitions is that we don't have to give a whole sentence to give the definition. We just use the word in a normal sentence, and then right next to the new word, we separate the definition from the main sentence with either commas or with parentheses. And that way we can continue on with the sentence, and we just give a short little definition in the middle. Let's look at examples. One of them we already saw in our class definition. There was a new word there called carnivorous. Many of us might not know this word, but right after it is a definition separated with commas or evergreen. And many of us are more likely to know the word evergreen, even if we don't know the word coniferous. Let me see the next one. Maybe there's a sentence that's talking about food being chewed in the mouth and then passes through the esophagus, the throat, before reaching the stomach. So here the word esophagus might be new, but a synonym for esophagus could be the throat, and that could help the reader then understand the new word, and we just continue on with the sentence. Our last example, digestion begins in the mouth, where saliva, our new word, spit in parentheses, okay, which is a short definition, a synonym for saliva, softens food while it is chewed. So the advantage of these brief or appositive definitions is that we don't have to get a whole sentence to define that new word. We just put it in parentheses or in commas right after the new word. Extended definitions are where we're taking all of these ideas and maybe we're combining them together to give maybe a definition that's a whole paragraph long for a really important key word in maybe an article or an essay that we are writing. And so we may start off with a basic definition, maybe using synonyms, maybe it's in a positive, or maybe using a class definition. But then we go further and we give more details about this new idea. We might tell the history of the word or the history of the concept. We might give some antonyms, meaning opposite words. We tell what this word is not. It's not these kinds of things. We might talk about its components or parts. What makes this unique characteristics to this concept? We may give some examples. We may talk about how we use it, its applications. So we put all of these things together and we can build an extended definition, which means longer. It's longer than just one sentence. It might be a whole paragraph. Let's look at some examples. So here we have a definition for a nuclear power plant. And we start off with kind of a class definition. A nuclear power plant is basically a steam power plant that is fueled by radioactive element like uranium. The fuel is placed in a reactor and the individual atoms are allowed to split apart. The splitting process, known as fission, releases great amounts of energy, and this energy is used to heat water until it turns to steam. So within our definition here, we had a quick class definition, we had some process or components described, and we talked about its uses. In more detail here, we can see that we're even defining other terms like radioactive element. This is a description of uranium. We're defining the splitting process, which is known as fission. So within a class or an extended definition, you might have other definitions, but you're talking about more details about this new word or concept. Let's look at another example. This one's about a seed. Okay? A seed remains in a dormant or resting stage before the plant embryo begins to develop into a seedling, a young plant. Seed germination is the resuming of growth of the plant embryo. Many factors such as water, oxygen, and light influence the time at which the seed will germinate. A mature plant is capable of reproduction, that is, of producing a new generation of seeds. So within this description, maybe kind of a process description we have here of how a seed grows, we have several different definitions for words like dormant, okay, embryo, germination, and reproduction. We talk about all of those different terms within this paragraph. So our goal this week is to write good paragraphs where we define new and complicated terms using all of these strategies for writing good definitions.